Hello, everyone, and welcome to my review of Episode 2 of She-Hulk on Disney+. Yes, we go into round 2 of this modern classic. Just a quick note. When you look at the time scale on the episode, it says something to the effect of like 30 minutes, or almost 31 minutes. That is in fact not true. The actual episode, when you take away the previously on and the opening credits, and you take away the closing credits, the whole thing is about 22 minutes long. So your average sort of, sitcom episode time frame. Okay. That's what it was meant to be, right? A legal situational comedy. Where's the comedy? This episode, this is going to be a brief review because nothing happens in this episode save for one thing. Well, okay, two things. Jennifer loses her job and she gets a new job. And in between, you have very bland, nothing scenes of dialogue and awkward conversations. That's it. So this will be brief. Relatively. Quick shout out to those of you who have joined me this morning for this very impromptu or, I'm on a schedule because of work and stuff, so apologies for the short notice. Mike Savage, John Miller, Deco, Bridget, Funtime Bats, Spoonie the Rebel, Non-Vitae Rex. Good morning to you all. All right, so apparently Titania, our very brief and very awkward villain from episode 1, is a super influencer. That alone makes her a supervillain, even if she didn't have superpowers. Superpowers that she apparently lost while struggling with the security guards or the bailiffs in the courtroom in episode 1, but regained in time to throw a desk at She-Hulk that appeared out of nowhere and then disappeared into nothingness again afterwards. If you saw episode 1's review, or if you've seen the clips of the actual fight on Twitter, you know what I'm talking about. Anyway, so now She-Hulk is in the news. That's the news. Who is this She-Hulk? Well, she's Jennifer Walters, a deputy district attorney. I missed that part in episode 1 where she was already working for the district attorney's office. I thought that she was working a civil case. But oh well. Anyway, so they go over that. They have some news clips of people going like, yeah, it was amazing. What should we call her? She-Hulk. That's catchy. Yeah, Lady Hulk, She-Hulk. Anyway, so Jennifer and her friend Nikki decide to go out to a bar that same day, I guess, or the next day. Hard to say. And everybody in the bar apparently is prepared to celebrate She-Hulk because Nikki says, all that going on in there, that's for you. They're all celebrating She-Hulk having defeated Titania in the bar. A bar called Legal Ease, which I thought was kind of funny. Anyway, Jennifer is reluctant to go in as She-Hulk. She just wants to be her. But she's like, no, go in as She-Hulk. And so she's like, okay, I'll go in as She-Hulk. And she walks in as She-Hulk, and everybody's like, yay, She-Hulk. And then she starts drinking. And she's like, that name better not stick. Oh, man, She-Hulk. Oh, man, I hate it. I really hate it, guys. It's bugging me. I can't even exist without being a derivative of the Hulk. Yeah. Well, you see, here's the thing. That was a challenge when they were originally writing this character. But you see, in the opening issue of She-Hulk #1, they made sure to make her her own character. Yeah, she was derivative of the Hulk in the sense that she was green and very strong. Outside of that, Jennifer Walters was a decidedly different character, operating under different circumstances, and that's what made her unique, and the way that she interacted with the world as compared to the Hulk is what separated her. You can't even exist. Well, I mean, in a way, I guess that's true. Are you complaining about your... I don't know. You see, I can't help, because of the way that the writers in their public comments have so inserted themselves and their own agendas and their own wants, desires, and beliefs into the script, it's hard for me not to try to imagine that what I'm hearing coming out of the characters' mouths are either the beliefs, complaints, or aspirations of the writers themselves. That's one of the challenges you get when you proclaim so loudly, this show represents me, rather than I am writing for these characters, or I am writing for this world. It's another element that sort of takes you out of the moment as a viewer, or at least as a viewer who pays attention to the press going on around the show. Thank you, the Gay Rascal. What? No otherkin Hulk? Well, just wait. Did you see Ang Lee's Hulk movie when, like, the gamma-irradiated super dogs attacked the Hulk? Those are kind of otherkin, I suppose. But thank you, Rascal. Anyway, so she's in the bar and she's complaining. Some of this we've seen in clips previously. I have to say, the CGI in most of these scenes for She-Hulk is bad. She doesn't look like she belongs there. It looks like cartoon and not set in the place where it's taking place. It's that uncanny valley moment where you just know that this does not belong. And again, it takes you out of the moment. It really would have been better if they'd found a bodybuilder actress and painted her green. If they'd just gone the Lou Ferrigno route. They could have had She-Hulk on screen most of the time and not had to do this. So this scene is part of it. The lighting kind of helps because it's darker. When she gets to the law firm later in the episode, it is particularly bad. Anyway, she complains about being a Hulk, and nobody's paying attention to her. Supposedly, this entire bar was all like cheering her name and getting all excited, and then as soon as they sit down, everybody's just keeping to their own business. Which, I mean, that's very polite of them, but it seems to go against the whole setup for the scene. Anyway, so they're complaining about this and the other. And then a misogynistic jerk lawyer guy whose name I still don't know from episode 1, he's like, "Nice trick you pulled there, Walters." I mean, whatever else you might say about the situation. Anyway, he says, to suddenly debut superpowers just to drum up publicity for yourself? Okay, as stupid as the setup was, the situation was crazy superpowered lady busts into courtroom and starts lightly struggling with bailiffs, and then very awkward edit cut to her throwing a giant wooden desk at the jury, which She-Hulk then stops and prevents any further harm happening. Even though the whole series of events is so weirdly and awkwardly contrived in episode 1, the facts of the matter are she saved the jury from grievous bodily injury and stopped a presumably supervillain. So jerk-ass lawyer guy here is just like, you went and like did this all for publicity for yourself? Like, good move. It just doesn't even match up. This character is dumb and dumbly written. Seriously, how did you get powers? I don't feel like talking about it. Even though she spent episode 1 telling us all about it. Nepotism, I knew it. So he thinks that the Hulk just gave her... I mean, I guess he did, technically. Some guy gave me these drinks for free because you're a superhero. No, I did not go to law school and rack up 6 figures in student loans. Did I can't get the next frame? Of course I can't get the next frame. I always complain about this. To be a superhero, she says. That is for billionaires and narcissists and adult orphans for some reason. Yeah, because, you know, all the people you're referencing, Tony Stark, Captain America... not so much Thor. Either way, these guys that have, like, saved the world on several occasions, one of whom is your own cousin, and, like, dude, I am so much... I did not go to law school to, like, become a superhero. Like, I have student debt, you know? And anybody who's like a superhero are just like narcissist orphans. Do the Avengers offer health care, she asks? Maternity leave? A pension? Are they even paid? And then Nikki says, here's the thing though, Hulk Jen is a total snack. Oh my gosh, guys. Oh my gosh. She-Hulk, total snack. I must be about several years off the slang train because I kind of understood what she was saying there, context clues. But, you know, I obviously don't hang out with wine moms or Sex and the City freakazoids because I don't know automatically what a snack is. I assume she's talking about her sexual attractiveness. I'm assuming. This is me playing, you know, spelling bee context clues guy here. But man, I sure got an education. Anyway, this guy walks up who we've never seen before, but apparently he's the district attorney. He's Mr. District Attorney. And he'd be talking to Jen. So Jen comes back down, and suddenly her metabolism can't handle all the alcohol she just downed as She-Hulk, and so now she's instantly drunk. Which I guess is one way to do it. Anyway, funny falling over drunk. And he's like, we didn't win the case. Uh-huh. I'll summarize this for you. So, She-Hulk saved the jury from the supervillain, and so it was decided that the jury would then be biased towards Jennifer Walters in the case, and so a mistrial was declared. Now, you would think, you might think it's foolish. You might think that, okay, well, these were extenuating circumstances. It's not her fault that the case was lost, and in fact, she saved people's lives. Right? So that should be a good thing. Now, a mistrial was called, and that sucks, but it was unavoidable at that point, probably. But because she saved the jury, the district attorney fires her from her job as a deputy district attorney. Because she lost the case for the prosecuting office. Also because her as She-Hulk is a liability to the district attorney's office, as it's more of a sideshow joke now. Now, on that part, maybe I can sort of agree, but on the basis of we lost the case, well, you didn't lose it, it's a mistrial. That means it's effectively a push. Even I, layman, you know, Law and Order watcher, understand that concept. But now she's going to be fired because of what she is. Now, I know I'm extrapolating from the whole idea of a legal show in the MCU, but one might almost say that that could be a civil rights violation right there. But that's not pursued in this episode at all, even in a fictional sense. So anyway, so she's fired. Oh my gosh, she's fired. And I'm sorry, Jen, I have to fire you. Okay, then we get to the opening credits. And then we go through a montage of her not being hired by a bunch of places. We can't hire a lawyer. You're a freak show. You're a sideshow. You're not tenable as an employee. And so now she's sitting around eating Chinese food and drinking cheap wine with her friend, who is her paralegal, who apparently, I guess, also lost her job because Jen lost her job? Or she just got the free time? I don't know. Anyway, so they're sitting around, and at one point Jen is looking at her computer, checking out, like, it was something like tourist mascot job in Switzerland or something. Maybe that's an Easter egg for some other Marvel thing I'm not thinking of right now. Or anyway, so she gets a text that, oh, I have to go to family dinner. Oh boy. And so now we cut to family dinner scene, and she brings a pie. And like, hi Mom and Dad, I'm here. And then Dad, this is the thing, this is Cousin Larry from Perfect Strangers. I was like, Cousin Larry, we so happy we do the dance of joy. You know, if Bronson Pinchot shows up in this show somewhere as a different character, that might make me happy in a way. And if they make the Isle of Mypos MCU canon, that'd just be the cherry on top. But anyway, so Cousin Larry's her dad. And anyway, so they say, hey, we know about you getting fired. I guess this is just common knowledge now. And we told everybody not to bring it up, you know, to not make it a thing. It's like, don't worry. You don't have to worry about getting fired. No one is going to bring it up. And then this character, who I think his name is Chet or Chad or Ched or something, he said, so you lost your job. I'm like, oh. And then you have this, I don't know, it's family dinner and people are kibitzing with each other, and then Dad starts asking her about Hawkeye. He says, so what happens to all those arrows that guy shoots? And then her mom is trying to set her up with some barista coffee guy who wants to be a superhero and needs advice. And it's just all this crosstalk and overlapping dialogue. You know, it made kind of famous as a style of storytelling, sort of in MASH, the original MASH movie. That was where it sort of, you know, was kind of a unique thing to have overlapping dialogue of the main characters and kind of setting up a very communal sense of these characters and sort of getting a sense of the attitudes and personalities. None of these characters have personalities. None of their conversation is interesting. Nothing about this family scene is either informative, unless they're setting up things for later, like this guy, who I don't know what a relation is to her, his wife is a stylist, and so she's like, we need to turn this hair into She-Hulk hair. Which is also an interesting thing, how her hair changes styles when she transforms. But I guess that is also comic book accurate in a way, so I don't know. Anyway, so this entire family dinner thing goes on for several awkward minutes where nothing happens. We find out some presumably irrelevant facts about some characters whose names we never really learn. And I guess they're all just, yeah. Anyway, so Dad checks in with her privately. I just want to make sure you're okay, kiddo. No, I'm not okay, but I'm okay with not being okay. And this just sucks. And I don't know how long this is going to go on. I just need to get a job. I hate that it got revealed in this way. Uh-huh. I'm being punished for doing the right thing. Yeah, it is kind of illogical, isn't it? You save a bunch of people's lives, you're a superhero, and you get fired for it. You'd almost think that would make the district attorney's office look kind of bad. But that's what happened. So Dad assures her, it's going to be okay, sweetheart. At least you didn't destroy a city, you know, like your cousin Bruce did. And the trauma that must have come from knowing that you'd done that without any control over yourself. But no, Jen's the bigger victim here. Anyway, so she's back at a bar, drinking her sorrows away, and then the opposing counsel from the trial shows up. Mr. I forget what his name is, McCluskey, something or other. Anyway, he'd like to offer you a job. Miss Walters, you laid out a winning case against us. Oh, it would have been nice if we'd actually seen that case, you know, building up to that point. Instead, we got a bit of her closing argument, which was kind of bland, and then a superhuman fight. Yeah. Anyway, it's no easy feat against GLK&H. GLK&H. I wonder if that means anything. Anyway, yeah, so he had one case against her, and he's like, aha, you're a brilliant litigator. Now I'm going to hire you. And she's like, wow, you got me fired, and now you want to hire me. Okay, well, first and foremost, he didn't get you fired. He called for a mistrial, which was completely legitimate under the circumstances. At that point, it's really hard to sort of get back on track when the jury's been attacked by a superhuman and then saved by another superhuman. So he was completely within his rights to call for a mistrial. He didn't get you fired. Your weird boss decided to fire you. But anyway, you got me fired, and now you want to hire me? But I will only do it if I can bring in my own paralegal. And he says, I do not care who your paralegal is. So at least Nikki's employed now. You start on Monday. And that's the interview process, apparently. Just, I want to offer you a job. But you're the one that put me in this position in the first place. Okay, I'll take the job, I guess. And she has another drink. And so she goes off to the new law offices. She walks in and he says to her, we're starting a superhuman law division. More of these type of characters are coming out of the woodwork. Yeah, you know, setting aside the couple of dozen that we've seen in the movies prior to the events of this show, but sure, yeah, okay. And so he wants to set up a superhuman law division, and he wants She-Hulk to be the face of that. And so now you need to be She-Hulk. I'll expect you to be at work and in court as the She-Hulk. And she's like, but... And so she walks in, and this is where we get, again, a sequence of very awkward CGI. Everybody's falling all over themselves and looking at her, etc., etc. And then something interesting happens. Something interesting happens. She does a fourth wall break, and she turns to the camera and says, okay, this sucks. Oh my God, is this why they hired me? I'm totally qualified, but now everyone around here will always think that the only reason that this is the only reason I got the job. It's so unfair. And I saw this clip, they put this clip up yesterday before the show premiered. And I commented on Twitter at the time, I said that is a very concise and cogent argument against DEI hiring and promotion initiatives and educational affirmative action. That is the consequence of tokenism. Right? She makes a very good point. It is unfair. The only reason people will think she got the job is because of what she is, not what she can do. And I applaud that argument because it's absolutely true. Which is interesting, given the rampant sexism in this show and the immediate dismissal of the Hulk's lived experience, right? It just... Anyway, a very odd, very... It's one of those things where I have to wonder if the writers of the show just completely lacked any kind of self-reflection or self-awareness when they inserted this in here. She's still a victim, guys. She is still a victim. And in this case, it might be a legitimate complaint. But that's not enough to stop her from taking the job. Nope. So anyway, she walks by, and she walks by a room full of, as you can see, like old, balding white men. See if I can get that frame again. There we go. These dodos never had to deal with this on their first day of work. Okay, well, I mean, you obviously know everything about these guys walking by and just looking at them because they're all middle-aged, slightly balding white guys, I guess. Okay, anyway, so she gets her new office, and Nikki's there and like, oh my God, look at all these windows we got. We got big-ass windows, guys. And a desk. Oh my gosh. This is a very fancy desk. And she's like, I'll have to buy an entirely new wardrobe just to come to work. Yeah, that's exactly what Bruce told you in episode 1 as to what you would have to do because he knew what was inevitable for you. So you have to maintain 2 wardrobes, one for not Hulk and one for Hulk. Yeah, didn't you learn this already? Anyway, we get a knock-knock from this character whose name is Pug. He's Pug. And he's also with the Superhuman Law Division. I'm sure Pug will become important later in the series, maybe. Anyway, he's here to bring her a gift basket of office supplies and some other things, and a map to the best bathroom for pooping. And they're both very serious, thank you. And that's where we end that scene. Anyway, so then Boss tells her that her first case is going to be Emil Blonsky. Now, for those of you who are not MCU nerds, or just Marvel nerds in general, Emil Blonsky is a character called the Abomination. He's one of the Hulk's longest-running foes. He is a big, green, yucky monster guy. In the comic books, I believe he was a scientist who ended up getting all gamma irradiated and turned into a big monster. In the MCU, Emil Blonsky was a Russian-born but British-raised SAS Special Forces guy who was brought in the Incredible Hulk movie to help the U.S. military capture the Hulk, who at the time was on the run. All right, General Thaddeus Thunderbolt Ross was chasing down the Hulk because the Hulk was the result of government funding, and his physiology, the ability to make super soldiers like that, were property of the U.S. government, plus the fact that he had injured, inadvertently, Thunderbolt Ross's daughter, Betty Ross. Or Betsy Ross? No, it's Betty, sorry. Anyway, so that was the whole thing, is that Emil Blonsky was a soldier meant to hunt down the Hulk. And he got pumped up with a sort of off-brand version of the super soldier serum that created Captain America to help him do it. Well, then he chased after the Hulk, and being a super soldier wasn't enough. He got completely massacred by the Hulk. And so he sought more power. He sought more strength, more ability, and he got obsessed and just drunk with this idea of becoming superhuman. And eventually he did, and he turned into this giant monstrosity, Hulk-like figure, eventually called the Abomination. And in the process of trying to take down the Hulk, he tried to call the Hulk out by destroying Harlem. He threw cars into buildings, killed people, massacred, just destroyed Harlem to draw out the Hulk. And then he and the Hulk had this big knockdown, drag-out fight throughout Harlem, and eventually the Abomination got defeated, and he got captured, and he got sent to a super-duper, super-villain prison, and he's been there ever since. This is the first time we're seeing the Abomination since that movie. He's been mentioned offhandedly in a couple of properties since then, but this is the first time we'll see him since that first movie. Thank you, John Miller. So the plot was actually the better of the episodes so far. Who knows? Or the pilot. Kind of, I guess. Not real. I don't know. Anyway, so she's told that Emil Blonsky is going to be her first client, because Emil Blonsky apparently is up for release. How is Emil Blonsky up for release after massive destruction and at least several murders? Don't know. But anyway, he's up for release, and so Jen Walters is going to be his defense attorney in arguing for his release. So anyway, she's like, so that guy tried to kill my cousin Bruce, which is, you know, legit. That would be a conflict of interest. But he says, no, Blonsky has signed a waiver of conflict, so he's fine with having you as his attorney. Okay, and if she doesn't take this job, then she doesn't have a job. Okay, she says, I can't represent him. And he says, if you don't take this case, you don't have a job. And so she's like, and he's like, how about you go meet him at least once before you make that decision? So then we're off to this super-duper supervillain prison facility, which I'm not sure which one this is supposed to be. In the comic books, you had several sort of named supervillain super prisons. You had like the Raft and the Cube, and there were like the Vault, I think, or the Fridge or something. Anyway, this is one of them. This may have been in one of the previous films, I'm not 100% sure. But anyway, she walks into this place. There's some Hannibal Lecter type jokes, which aren't really funny, because even the guard shuts her down. He says, is he going to serve me up with some fava beans and then a nice Chianti? And he stops her and said, this is a prison, ma'am. And she's like, of course. And so she walks into the super duper thing. Now, I have not watched the movie Shang-Chi, or Shang-Chi, I have, however, seen so many clips of the movie that I practically have seen the movie. I know that there's a scene in Shang-Chi where the Abomination is fighting in a cage match with Wong from the Doctor Strange films for some reason. Because if you watch that scene in the Shang-Chi movie, when they're teleporting back or a portal is open to send Blonsky back to where he's supposed to be, you see this prison cell. So this prison cell is all, you know, super secure, got laser beams around it, and who knows what else. Anyway, so she talks to Blonsky, and Blonsky, it's really... Tim Roth is a great actor. Tim Roth is excellent in so many things. He is so out of place here. And the whole idea is that he's turned over a new leaf, and he's not the character he was, and he starts explaining to her, he's like, look, I was just hunting down the Hulk on your government's orders. They pumped me full of chemicals, and it turned me into something I wasn't. And it's their fault, and that's why I should be released. I'm a victim of the government. And if you had no idea of all the internal events of what happened during The Incredible Hulk, you might be able to believe that. Anyway, he's playing up this sob story that he's a victim, and he's been writing haiku as apology to his victims. And also that he has 7 pen pals who want to buy a piece of land for him where he can live after he's released. And he's learned to control his transformation because in the movie, in The Incredible Hulk, it looked like he'd been permanently transformed into the Abomination because we see his like skeletal structure alter over the course of the film. It looks like it's a permanent change, not something that he can will into existence. But apparently he's learned how to will it in and out of existence, which is convenient for the CGI budget. Anyway, so he says, yeah, so I've reformed myself. I'm turning over a new leaf. I don't blame your cousin for anything. I don't hold any animosity. You know, it wasn't personal. I was doing it on orders. She says, yeah, but you blew up Harlem. That wasn't sanctioned by the government. And he's like, yeah, because they pumped me full of that super soldier serum. Except that's not what happened. I was a highly decorated soldier. I was just following orders. Anyway, so he's locked up in there, and the Hulk is some kind of hero, and that's not fair. I understand your point. He says, I've been writing haiku to each of my victims. You want to hear some? No, I don't want to hear some. If I were your attorney, I'd advise you to speak from the heart instead of trying to gauge what you think they might want to hear. Like, I am speaking from the heart. I'm moving on with my life. You see how nothing is happening there? Anyway, so yeah, so she decides to take the Blonsky case. Actually, I take it back. She first has to call Bruce and say, hey, I got a job, and I have to represent Blonsky, and blah, 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 blah. And there's this constant, she says something, and he tries to respond, but she cuts him off. She says something that's kind of a question or a concern. He tries to respond, but she cuts him off. And anyway, I couldn't take this job without talking to you first. And he's like, oh, it's fine. That was a long time ago. It really doesn't matter. It's okay. I'm sure it'll be fine. Except Blonsky was a rampaging, murderous psychopath who killed several people in the process of trying to get to the Hulk. And then tried to murder the Hulk. And then tried to murder Betty Ross and Thunderbolt Ross and everybody on that helicopter in the movie. Anyway, he's fine with it. Anyway, and she was calling not to ask permission. This is the thing. She'd already made her decision. And he's like, you're calling me to tell me you took the job. And then she's like, I'm calling you to tell you I took the job. Right, so all her concerns about a conflict of interest, legally speaking, have gone by the wayside. All of her concerns about representing someone who tried to kill her cousin were already set aside before this phone call. She wasn't asking permission. She was just explaining to him why she's taking the job, regardless of what his opinion might have been. So that's what that was about. But anyway, he's like, actually, Blonsky wrote me a really nice letter a while back. Bygones are bygones. That fight was so many years ago. I'm a completely different person now. Yeah, it's true, but you didn't willfully kill a whole bunch of people. Or attempt the murder of other people. You know, of course, at the same time, the Hulk persona of you did destroy several cities and at least injure many people. We never see you kill anybody. Anyway, whatever. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Anyway, so you're sure you're okay with it? Really? Well, you already took the job, so what does it matter if he's okay with it? Anyway, then we pull back to find out that the Hulk is actually on a spaceship. He's on that Sakaar cruiser thing, off into the multiverse somewhere. I have no idea if that story is going to be resolved in this series, or if this is a setup for World War Hulk, or Planet Hulk. I'm not going to go into that, that's a longer story. Anyway, so she calls up the guy and says, I'd like to accept your job. That's good to hear. Personal complications have been resolved. I've already got a winning strategy, and it's 100% in the bag. He says, you might want to take a look at the news right now. Okay, I'll do that. So far, there have been no statements made by Emil Blonsky's attorney. Well, that's interesting. I mean, she just took the job, so how would they know they didn't get a response from the attorney? After shocking footage leaked showing the Abomination in a cage fight, participating in what appears to be an underground fight club after escaping prison. And she's like, oh, that sucks. Cut to black. Or cut to credits. That's it. That's the show. That's the episode. Yeah, okay, so he's been escaping prison to go fight in an underground club at some point or another. We're just finding out about this now, and that's where the episode ends. And that's after you take out the opening previously on thing. Yeah, 21 minutes. 21 minutes of actual show, which again, okay, sitcom. Anyway, we have this big long chunk of credits, and then we have an after credit scene. Do you know what the after credit scene consists of? You know what vital information and cliffhanger tease information the after credit scene gives us? It's multiple instances of She-Hulk lifting things. She holds up the car while family members change a tire. She puts a big plasma TV on the wall single-handedly. She carries 6 water cooler giant bottles of water into her dad's house. She's like, I know you're trying to keep hydrated, but this is a bit excessive. The end. That's it. That's the show. So she gets fired from her job in an incomprehensible way for an incomprehensible reason. She gets hired for a job on the basis of something that is completely absent of any merit, skill, or otherwise, and makes a comment about it, which is, I mean, very poignant in its own way. She takes on a client, and then the client apparently has escaped from prison at some point. And then we're done. Okay. That's it. That's the show. Yeah, nothing else to say about it. The writing was not... There wasn't any point of cringe so much as there was so often in the first episode. I'll give it that. You didn't have a speech of, you know, my being catcalled or having things explained to me by a man is worse than your 15-year-long struggle with trauma and loneliness and suicidal thoughts and, you know, grieving lost friends and self-sacrifice. Yeah, nothing like that, but just the episode and all was just, it was just so bland. Nothing, there were no laughs. There wasn't anything particularly funny, situational or otherwise. And the CGI, I mean, it was so jarring because you'd have one shot of her walking along a hallway in like full body, and it looked really bad. And then you'd have a close-up shot of her face, and it didn't look that bad. There was such a differential, even in the same scene, between different shots of the quality of the CGI and how well it fit within the world it was depicting. Anyway, what do you guys have to say? This is Kyle. I mean, that's not unusual for a journalist saying they didn't get an answer when they asked for one 3 seconds beforehand. I suppose that is true. I guess I can extend that much. I've seen that before, where somebody sends off an email, waits a minute, and then continues writing a story. Okay, I'll give you that. I won't hold the mainstream media, even in the MCU, up on too high a pedestal. All right, legitimate. Texas Attorney General Secret Agent, I dislike the fourth wall break stuff. I know it was in the comics, but this universe hasn't engaged in that type of humor up until this point. It can be done. It could be done effectively if it's done creatively. I don't see there's necessarily a place that it couldn't be. It's all about the writing and the way it's employed. And so far, it's just been employed in offhanded comments to the camera. It hasn't been overtly terrible or necessarily distracting to me. It just hasn't been, had the effect that, like, the comic books did. What I thought would happen in a fourth wall break, maybe they'll do it later on, I don't know. One of the funnier fourth wall breaks in, like, the first couple of issues of the comic book, the second series of She-Hulk, was she had to get from one location to another, but she was running out of time, like it was across town or something, so she just walked between comic panels on the same page to arrive at the location. And then the person was like, wow, you got here quick. Yeah, I had to take a shortcut. And that was all that was said, and then just moved on with the scene. That can be funny, right? If it's unobtrusive. But so far we haven't had anything quite that dramatic. Anyway, yeah, so it could be done, it just hasn't been done funny yet. Texas Attorney General, does this mean we need to put Deadpool in the universe now? Deadpool's already in production. The MCU Deadpool 3 movie is in production right now. So, yeah, somehow they're going to fit it in, and probably the writers of Deadpool will do it far more effectively than these guys. Kane and Crystal Wing, the end credit scene was boring, but they probably just showing off She-Hulk's bod. I didn't even pay attention to that. It was just, I can lift heavy things. I'm doing chores around the house. All at night, if you noticed. It was all at night. There was no daylight. It all happened after the sun was down, when there was enough shadows to sort of cover up the edges of things. I found that interesting. Let's see. Dexter. The story beats are the same as the comics, so I don't see what the huge deal is, the whole Jen getting fired thing. I mean, okay, I don't know all the details of the original comic. If they're lifting all this directly from the the comics, that she got fired for being the She-Hulk, okay. My reaction to it is purely on the basis of what I'm seeing in this show, for the most part. My knowledge of the comics is from the second She-Hulk run, the John Byrne run. So her origin story, I know the bits and pieces of the sort of the boilerplate of it. The surrounding events, characters, and such, I'm only vaguely familiar with. So if this is them trying to adapt exactly what happened in the comic books and make it make sense, and they still can't, then I guess, okay, maybe her origin story has some flaws to it. But insofar as the show's concerned, I mean, they couldn't find a way to tell it more effectively or logically? I don't know. Let's see. Anything else? JB, this is Mark Ruffalo's Hulk after all. Yeah. And Mark has made some interesting comments the last couple of days on fairness and reviews, and I've commented on that a couple of times, but anyway. So there you go, guys. Yeah, I'm going to wrap it up here. There's not much left to say. It's an episode. A couple of things happened, but it was filled mainly with fluff and unimportant conversations, as far as I can tell. Maybe Pug will pay off later. Maybe the map to the bathroom where you can go poop easier will pay off later. I don't know. I hope so. I hope that map becomes very important. I hope that becomes like a vital piece of information. That would be something. But, all right. There you go. With that, thank you guys for joining me. Remember, tonight at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, will be the weekly episode of TED Excellence. Well, once again, I'll take a look at an off-brand TED Talk for enjoyment and information. I call it Enfoyment. Maybe. This week, it'll be trees with bank accounts. No, I'm not just pulling that out of thin air. That is part of the title of the TEDx. I have no idea. We'll find out together. Everyone, thank you for joining me. Hope you all have a good rest of your Thursday. Hope you are all safe and well. If you are not well, please get well soon, and I'll see you on the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.